Hey, hi Sana, how are you?
Yeah, hi Kedar. I'm doing good.
All right. So, firstly, let me just give a small introduction about myself. My name is Kedar.
Okay.
I've been a data scientist for the last 10 years, and we are here to talk about the job role of a data scientist in my organization. So, let's take things ahead, right? Can you just give me a quick introduction about yourself?
So my name is Sahana. I'm currently pursuing my final year of MSc Data Science at Coimbatore Institute of Technology. And I am currently now interviewing for the job role that you currently mentioned about the data science job role at the organization. And yeah,
Okay.
so yeah.
Any experience with the data science you have, Pazisana, or like I see that in your resume you have written that you've done some internships while doing the course. So what was that all about?
Yeah, I've done two internships in my past. One was with a startup called Data Analytics, and the other one was freelance project where I did this project called resume parsing with NLP. So yeah, these are the two projects that two internships that I worked on.
Okay, so what was the project of resume parsing all about?
Okay, so the main objective of this project was that let's take even your organization as an example. So for the role that you mentioned, you will be getting a lot of entries and a lot of resumes, to uh, for applying, and it might be a really tedious job for you to go through each and every resume and find the perfect resume for you, and it will be a really tedious job for you to extract the necessary information from each and every resume, like by going through it manually. So which is why I tried to automate this whole job using this concept called NER, which is named entity recognition. So where I parse the resumes which are in the forms of PDF to to extract the text and the entities that you need. Entities here means that the portions that you want to know about. Let's say let's say there's a sentence called "My name is Sahana" in the resume. So here Sahana is a name and the name is an entity. Similarly, there can be a lot of other entities like their skills, their contact number, their experience, and all that. So I try to build a model that can extract these entities so that it would be easy for a recruiter like you to understand all the resumes in one go.
Okay, so is this kind of a resume filtering kind of a project?
No, no, this is like a first level resume filtration, where you just, if you just want to pick the resumes with the desired skills that you need, it's just like a first level filtering of
Okay.
resumes kind of.
Okay. And how did you go about doing this?
Okay, so as I told earlier, the concept I've used is called NER, which is named entity recognition. And I've implemented this concept using this framework called SPACY, which is a very popular framework for, all the NLP related algorithms and processes. So I've done everything totally in Python with the help of the SPACY framework. Yeah.
Okay. So
So, okay.
okay. So NLP, right? So let's talk about some basics of NLP. What can you tell me? What is the difference between stemming and lemmatization?
Okay, so what stemming does is the stemming algorithm by within itself will have a set of prefixes and suffixes. So let's say if I have a word called work or something, uh, the work is the root word, but what the stemming algorithm will have a set of suffixes like ed, ing, and all that. So when I say I worked here, the stemmed version of this will be I work here, but here it is not directly rooted, mapped to the root version, but the suffix are just removed. The ed is just removed, or the
Okay.
ing is just removed.
Okay.
Yeah, but when it comes to lemmatization, it is a little bit smarter than stemming. Where if I say I drove yesterday, or I drive today, or I'm driving tomorrow. Here, the driving can be from the word driving, you can arrive the word drive easily just by removing the ing. But from drove, you can't route it back to drive in case of stemming, because stemming just removes the set of suffixes and prefixes. So in that case, lemmatization is a much smarter, routing process where it directly maps it to its root words.
Okay.
Like drove will be mapped to its word. The root words are here called as lemmas. So the word drove will be directly mapped to drive.
Okay, fair point. When do you use lemmatization and when do you use stemming?
In most cases, I think lemmatization is a good fit because you can understand the root words better. But if you can go to stemming, where the conceptual meaning is not too much is not given too much importance. Now let's take an example of classifying an email as spam or ham. So in that case, you won't bother about what are the words involved. You just have to just categorize. So you're not like, it's not like a very smart project like autocomplete, or like let's say a chat bot or something, where the output really matters, or the grammatical forms of the output are really important. So in that case, you can go to these simpler methods like stemming. But like when we are talking about these chatbots or autocomplete, such kind of NLP projects, the grammatical, the grammar of the words are really important. So which is why lemmatization is a better option.
Okay. So why did you use spaCy here? Like, why not NLTK or other any other libraries which are present out there? Why essentially spaCy?
Okay, so spaCy already has a lot of spaCy already has a sophisticated model that has already been built. So now the size of the data that I had was really less, which is around 200 to 220 resumes. So with that, building like a model from scratch with NLP is a little, I mean NLTK is a little bit it won't be that much efficient, because it is really hard for the model to learn with just 220 resumes. But the spaCy framework already has already has a model that is learned on plain English. So that model can be customized for my domain or my project, so that I can make the model learn better. There were other two options apart from NLTK, which are spaCy and Stanford. But you might ask, why did I not prefer Stanford? The reason being, Stanford is a totally Java-based framework, and it is not as customizable as spaCy. So, which is why I opt spaCy.
Okay. Okay, fair point. So just walk me through how was the training data, or what was the training data in the first place? How did you pass it to spaCy? So, and what are the steps that are involved? So let's say that I'm a layman, right? And I don't understand anything about spaCy, and I want to go from, let's say, understanding the training data to kind of extracting information out of that training data, which you have essentially done. How would you go about explaining it to me?
Okay, so the training data that I received was already in the form of JSON. So to explain about the data that I had, so the data that came to me already had the text and the entities tagged. So let's say let's take a sentence that I worked at ABC company for 5 years as program analyst. Okay, so if this will be the whole sentence of my training, and the entities will be the ABC will be the company, and let's say the A starts from the 10th character and it ends at 13th character. So the starting point of company will be 10 and the ending point will be 13, and the text in between that will be labeled as company. Similarly, if let's say the example was I worked at ABC for 5 years, right? So for 5 years, the character number 5 will be the experience. And as a program analyst will be the designation label, where let's say the character P for program analyst starts from 20th character and it ends at 30th character. So the data will be labeled as 20, 30, program analyst. So this is how actually spaCy expects the data, but the data I received was also in JSON, but not in a proper manner that how spaCy expects. The spaCy model expects in a very peculiar form of JSON. So the data that I had was a really nested form of JSON. So I had to simplify a little bit so that spaCy can understand. And then once your data is converted to the way spaCy expects, there are a lot of pipes that you can use from spaCy, like say tokenization, lemmatization, POS tagging, all of that. And there's NER is also one of them. So I chose the NER pipe, and I trained my model on that pipe.
So hold on. So you said you chose the NER pipe. Why not choose all the other pipes and train the model on that?
Okay, so in my case, I think the other pipes are not really necessary. Even when I choose those pipes, I might get similar results, but at the cost of a lot of time for training and at the cost of a lot of computational power. So which is why NER alone is a sufficient pipe for the whole training of this model.
Okay, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, okay. So once you train, you can also, NER is basically a tree-based model, which understands the syntactic dependencies between the text. So let's say there are 3 resumes and all of those have I worked at ABC, and the second resume is I worked as this at ABC, and the third resume is I worked for ABC. So now the spaCy NER model will understand that anything that follows worked at or worked for or for will be considered as the label company, like I said. And so like this is how it works. Like it will understand from the training data how are the sentences formed and how are they dependent, how are each term dependent with each other. So with this knowledge, it will build a probabilistic tree kind of a model within itself, which is basically a deep learning model. So you can also customize this model a little bit. Like you can also specify the parameters, like what is the amount of drop down that you want, or what is the amount of what is the optimizer that you want to use for this deep learning model, and so on. Those kind of parameters are customizable, and you can also train it for as many epochs as you want. And once you're done with the training, you can find the entity. Once the model is trained, you can do your predictions with any PDFs or any sort of file that you want.
Okay, so you raised a very important point there, saying that you can customize it however you want, right? So what was the optimizer that you used here?
So the optimizer that I used here was SGD, which is stochastic gradient descent.
So how does SGD work, or how is SGD, let's say, different? So let's say I have gradient descent, I have mini batch gradient descent, and I have gradient descent, stochastic gradient descent. What is the difference between all 3 of them?
Okay, so gradient descent is when you update the weights for every epoch. So when you go through all the training data once, that is called one epoch, right? So the gradient descent takes one step when all the training data are gone through, which is that the gradient will take one step when one epoch is completely finished. So that is the plain normal gradient descent. Okay. Whereas in stochastic gradient descent, what happens is the gradient will take a step further or a step backward or whatever on every training data point, on each and every data point from the whole.
So each and every row, essentially.
Yeah, each and every row. Yeah, okay. Exactly. So for each and every row of data that goes into the model, the weights are being updated and the gradient takes a step further. Whereas in mini batch, So instead of taking, it's a midway between normal gradient descent and stochastic gradient descent, where we take in only a certain number of rows. And once, once the model is trained on these set of rows, the gradient takes another step.
Okay. So, all right. So in this you used SGD. So can I use mini batch here?
Yeah, I think you can, but the reason being here is I have only 220 models. So when you can use mini batch when you have considerably a little more number of data. Here I have only 220 models, and it would be wiser to use SGD.
220 data points, not models.
Sorry, yeah, 220 data points. Sorry.
Okay, not a problem. Cool. So you mentioned about dropout, right? You said you set the dropout to 0.2 or something. So what is dropout essentially?
So dropout is when you drop a certain layer, drop a certain neurons from a layer for every iteration. Now, if I say that the dropout ratio is 0.2, that means 20% of the neurons that are present in that layer will be dropped. So the neurons that are dropped are not static for all the iterations. So let's say we have a neuron. Let's say we have a single neural network layer with 5 neurons, say A, B, C, D, E. So for the first iteration, A and E might be dropped, and for the next iteration, B and C might be dropped. So similarly, depending on the dropout ratio, the certain number of neurons are dropped. When I say dropped, the meaning is that their weights won't be updated after, their weights won't be updated in the back propagation step. So their weights will remain the same. So which essentially means those neurons have not learned anything from that particular iteration. So that is how dropout works.
Okay. And why do we require dropout?
To avoid overfitting. So whenever we perform deep learning models, underfitting is not a question because we already tend to build a lot of layers. But there is a chance for overfitting, like when the data is learned too perfectly or the model is trained too perfectly on the data, then it might become a little difficult to generalize your model for the test data. So which is why we tend to drop a certain number of neurons in each and every iteration so that the model will still, learn it in a more general way than without dropouts.
Okay. So, all right. So when you did this exercise on 220 rows worth of data, right, were the results perfect? How were the results looking like? What were the metrics that you might have thought of to check the results?
Okay, so speaking about metrics, well, this project might seem like a supervised classification kind of model, but it's actually not. Here we are trying to here we're trying to extract the entities. We're not trying to classify this as spam or ham or whatever. So which is why, the conventional metrics like precision, recall, or F1 score or whatever will not be applicable for this particular case, because here we are only trying to extract the information, like if say as I told earlier, I worked at ABC for 5 years, then I have to extract ABC and 5 years perfectly. So F1 score and other conventional classification or supervised metrics that you might have heard of will not be a better fit here. Here, I think, is to just compare it with the real world scenario and to understand or to understand it from the real world perspective, that will give us a better sense of how the data works. How the model works.
Okay. Just to let you know, there are some metrics which are called as message understanding conference, right? Like they came up with some metrics like spurious missing partial, and then what you can do is you can build a kind of golden standard and evaluation metric on top of it. Okay. And exact and partial matches and also are there. So there are some metrics which are there through which you can, let's say that at the entity level, how does my recall, how is my precision looking like? So let's say that, for example, I have 5 organizations in the statement that I'm saying. Like, let's say I work at Apple, but previously I worked at Microsoft, and from there I went to a company called as, let's say, ABC Bank, right? Now
Okay.
here there are three organizations that essentially I'm talking about. So let's say my tag is organization. So at an entity level, F1 precision and recall do actually work. So while evaluating an NER, what might actually happen is you might be getting all the good results for a certain kind of entity. Like, let's say that the good result is only for name, like whatever name I'm choosing, right?
Yeah.
Like my name is Kedar and my name is Sana, so on and so forth. So person might be getting all the correct results, but for organization, you might be getting very bad results.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to improve your model. And for that, you can use metrics like F1 accuracy, recall at an entity level by using partial missing dependencies going ahead. So this was pretty new as well, I think. So that's why you might not be knowing this. Good. Not a problem.
I'm glad I at least know.
Yeah. So quick question. So most of the resumes generally are in PDFs, right? So how did you go from taking this PDF to converting it into kind of a JSON for spaces, on and so forth, right?
Okay, so here the concept of OCR comes in, which is called optical character recognizer, wherein and for using that concept in Python, I have used this library called Tika, which will eventually extract all the text from any PDF file. So I'm converting all the text. I'm extracting all the text that I can get from the PDF file. I'm saving it into a normal text file, or that doesn't matter. You can even save it as a variable, or you can save it as a normal text file. And once that becomes a plain text, you can directly pass it to the Spacy NAR model that we built.
Okay. So let's say that you have done this for PDFs, right? Tomorrow, let's say you want to do it for documents, doc files, like Word docs and images, because some resumes might be in docs and some might be in images. So how would you scale this then for those data types?
Yeah, the library that I've used, Tika, is a layer built on top of PyTesseract. So it is highly customizable to any kind of file format. Even if the resumes are in images, it can extract text from those images. So for this project, I've used only for PDF files, but this is highly customizable. You can still tune it to make it work for Word files or images, or any file extensions that you would desire.
Okay. And does Tika preserve the format, right? So sometimes on our resume, what we see is on the left-hand side, we have written our contact details. On the right-hand side, we have given our email IDs. So does Tika preserve that format going ahead, or is it kind of like plain text one after another that keeps on occurring?
Yeah, actually what happens is that whenever there's a line break, there's this new line character that comes in. But when you convert it to text, I think there won't be, like what you said, preserving of format or something. It will just be converted to plain text.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I'm good with this, Sahana. Thank you for interviewing with us.
Thank you.
I'll let you know what happens next. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.